Got that Friday feeling, and it's going to be a great Friday today. Basically at work, all I'm doing is, well, I say all, is I'm walking 3 relatively big pull requests through code review, send them over the fence to testing, doing some rapid bug fixing if there are any bugs, to try and get this story across the line by midday Monday. So that's going to be my fun day today, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to really look forward to it. I love days like this. Well, no, I like days where I can like sit and just deep dive into something, but I do like this kind of iterative style of day where you feel like you get more done, even though arguably it's not much at all. That cyclist wanted to be part of the vlog. There we go, everything's tied up into a nice tight little bow for us, ladies and gentlemen. We managed to get everything deployed, we got it all tested, it's all signed off, and we've just pushed up the next thing. So it looks like on Monday I'll be helping out on testing that as well. Another scorcher of a day today, ladies and gentlemen. We're having a heat wave this weekend and it's very, very warm. And today we almost did something pretty ballsy. I was about this close to attempting to talk Laura into looking into buying a flat. We went to go and look at 2 flats in like a building in Bristol that we could buy, and I think we could afford, and it was really nice and they're really cool, and it's like in a nice big new modern building, and it's all nice and modern and open plan and lovely, and I really liked it. But we aren't unfortunately in a position where that's probably a good idea. We basically like had a plan, like, right, here's what we're planning on doing over the next couple of years, like life-wise. How does this fit in with buying a flat? Is it a good idea to buy now? Is it next year? Is it the year after? Is it etc. Likewise, when's a good idea to, because like Laura's progressing through her job, when's a good idea to progress into what I want to do? How would that sit with a flat and all that kind of stuff? And basically, yeah, I was pretty close to trying to persuade to buy, but it would be silly to do so because essentially things can go up in the air within like a year or so. So that's that. Otherwise, apart from that like short moment of excitement, we came back and we had some lunch, and I've been programming. I've been diving into some programming. Laura's been doing some work for work, and we're about to head on out in this crazy heat to go have some food, and we're going to go to the theatre. Absolute lads. I've also sorted out my video, which went up today as well. Is my computer still on? Needs to shut down if not. No. Which one are we on? D. D? Oh, it's right down.
Who's got an
oh my god. Really?
Yeah.
They're like little binoculars so you can see the stage.
We haven't got an old pound coin, so
old. I just saw the old sticker. That's pretty cool. Very good seat as well, Bubba. Yeah. Oh, we didn't get a box.
Oh, God, right. These chairs are not very comfortable, do they?
I mean, these aren't very comfortable. Have you seen our little room I've got?
Yeah, I know. I told you there was restricted leg room.
That was really good, ladies and gentlemen. We've never been to a theatre to see a play before. We obviously went to that really small one for my birthday a couple of however long ago, and that was really good. But it was generally really good. We went to go see The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night, I think, and I fully recommend it. It was legit good stuff. The only problem was that the Hipperdrome, despite the fact that we were in shorts and t-shirt, was 3 million degrees, and it was pretty toasty. But yeah, so it was really good. That's about all to report, really. Otherwise, we're heading to bed. But I've been teaching myself a new skill. I'm not good enough to showcase yet, but I've been trying to teach myself how to do the coin rolly thing. Oh, god damn it! And it's all right until it gets to like there, and you got to like drop it through your finger, and then drag it up with your thumb to the top without it being too obvious that that's what you're doing. But it's I can't do this and vlog at the same time. This is ridiculous. I'm trying it with a pound coin and it's too small and like fat, so I've got a €2. I've got a €2 piece, but not a 10p piece or something. It is not even 12 o'clock and these guys are already munching into some Five Guys. We've come to town, Laura needs some clothes for work and I don't need anything, so I'm just kind of killing some time. It's also ludicrously hot, but we can't stay long in town because Laura's got work to do, I've got work to do. So it's supposed to hit 29 degrees today, possibly higher, so it's toasty. Well, I actually did quite well. I bought myself a shirt. I also bought myself 4 other shirts, but they're the wrong type. Happy days. Keeping count now, I've bought 10 shirts and I've kept 1. So yeah, I'm going to take them back tomorrow. I accidentally bought the ones that had that needed cufflinks, and I'm not about that. It's kind of a blessing anyway because I bought 4 white ones, and then that one is like a white and spotty, and I think I prefer the white and spotty one. So I'm going to do. I've realised that the mix and match thing isn't as mix and matchy as I thought it was, because it's something like if you buy 4, you get 4 for £100, but it's not that. It's if you buy 4, you unlock the lower price. So the like £35 one becomes £25 and the £45 one becomes £35, and it works like that. So if you buy 4 of the 2 more expensive ones and the 2 cheaper ones, you still get the deal. It's just not 4 for 100, it's like 4 for 120 or something. Otherwise, today's been one of them days where like I'm trying to do work, but it's so difficult to concentrate in this heat. It's atrocious, and it's being compounded by the fact that I'm working in an area that I know is temporary, and I've just kind of fudged it. I've just fudged it in, basically. I know that it works. I just need to do a little bit more wiring because I've changed the routing a little bit. But I know that it works. It's not tested. Most of it's not tested. Well, no, it's very basically tested. But it's not great at all. But I know that I need to change the way that I represent things. The problem is the way that I'm generating my results, the way that I'm publishing the results to the user is just wrong. Because if I live in a world where I want to use 10 threads and I've only mutated 1 file, then I'm only going to use 1 of the 10 threads, which is stupid. I also live in a world where I need to be able to separate this out as much as possible. I know I've got to do a bit of refactoring about moving this onto loads of different computers. Basically, what's happened is the same conversations we were having yesterday vis-a-vis purchasing a flat kind of basically mean that I am going to start really pushing this project. I'm going to start pushing it hard, and I'm going to start being a lot more agile about it. So I think I'm going to drag in a story to migrate the entire platform to the cloud. Yeah, I'm just going to migrate it now because I'm just building on things that I know are going to change. So I need to focus on and try and think of solutions for the issue of moving different parts of it onto different computers based on the compiler. Like, there's certain complications that come around with that. I need to figure out how to communicate the files between all the computers. I need to figure out how I instruct them all. I'm basically thinking of having a Service Fabric instance that's basically like the web, essentially. Service Fabric instance is like the gateway, the API gateway, and then I'll have something that is all of the ones which are responsible for reviewing. They store like what they're doing, and then you basically hit it with a message, and the message goes, right, okay, cool, I'm going to do all my fucking work, and then I'm going to push it back to you. And then that way you essentially just have a load of slaves. So they do all the work, there's going to be loads of them. There's one thing that's like responsible for orchestrating that piece of information and all that. Problem is, how do I separate them all out? How do I attempt to make it possible to reuse one of those machines, or do I allow one machine, one person's stuff, even though it might not be fully optimal? There's a lot of optimizing, basically. I think I can reuse the machines, especially if it's a different, because the issue becomes you can only use one compiler at a time. We'll see. It's one of the things about like cutting down costs versus speeding it up. But yeah, that's about that really. Need to figure out a decent plan. But yeah, otherwise today's been a lot of like kind of like chores stuff. Laura's been working on some stuff. She's got a busy week coming up. So I've been like helping out with that and like trying to make sure she has as much time as possible instead of the other way around for a change. It's the hottest day of the year yesterday, and today it's going to be 2 degrees warmer, and I can't even stay in our nice, well, not even that nicely air-conned office. I need to exchange these 4 shirts for another 4. I decided against wearing my new shirt today, just in case I had to order my next 4 shirts online, because otherwise I didn't want anyone to awkwardly make a comment about, oh, you finally got some shirts that fit you properly, and then suddenly go back to my 2 small shirts. So yeah, there's that. Otherwise, I have been pondering my project. I've got a couple more things I need to do just to wire up the production of an like results object. But I'm trying to figure out how I can migrate my system to a... Hey Dibs, how's it going? Alright. Casually bump into Dibble there as I'm walking in. Yeah, I was saying I've got to figure out how to transfer the files around the system because I can't currently do it all in memory, which is annoying. Oh, I'm melting. I'm in the kind of position where it's like, it's too hot to go to sleep. It's currently something like 24 degrees, which is hotter now than it is in the day at the average time of the year. This, like, on average, in June, it isn't even 24 degrees in the daytime. It was 30 in the day, and it's still over 24, and it's fucking midnight. This is how hot it was in Barcelona. Like, it's fucking crazy. And like, it's too hot to sleep, but it's also too hot to focus and concentrate on programming properly. And it's really annoying because I just want to get... I'm like, where do I do it? Because no matter what, I've got to keep this door closed, whatever, for Laura. So I don't keep her awake and stuff. But that means, like, I've got to close off airflow, and there is, like, no breeze outside. And I can't have lights on without things flying in. It's not pleasant at all. She's got the fan. You'll be happy to know, though, that I finally managed to finish off and test all of the mappings to get my object out of my program. Badly estimated how long it would take, like, badly. I think I estimated it would take 5 hours, and it took 73. The best part is, it's even created more stories for me to do, which is great. But yeah, I know that I need to look at the way that I'm doing this stuff now. I'm going to finish this story because basically now all I need to do is serialise that and put it in a file. Job to fucking done. Or maybe add a 2-string on it, who knows. Yeah, like, now I need to really, like, focus and figure out the best way of doing this on the cloud. Like, this is the best way of doing it locally in the current situation. Like, as it is, this is the best way of doing it. It just makes sense. But there is moving to the cloud, being a little bit more cloud-based and distributed, need to work it in a slightly different way. And that's what I'm focusing on, which is what I keep trying to tell you I'm focusing on, and then I get distracted by things. Guys, my favourite park and ride has reopened, and I'm literally here 10 minutes before I would be if I'd gone to the other one. I'm going to get a bus that leaves 10 minutes before I would if I'd gone to the other one. Oh, it's so good. I fucking love this park and ride. It's so much better. It's nice being able to come this way into work, ladies and gentlemen. Oh man, that drive is so much better. Anyway, we have planning today, and I have a couple of things I need to wrap up on my current user story on my own project, but then I am kind of also spinning architectural designs for the future. Like I say, the issue I have is I can't always do everything in memory. If I could support the entirety of everything in Roslyn, then I could pass like entire projects and solutions around in memory, and things would be a lot easier. But I kind of need to have a way of copying files to separate microservices, and that isn't necessarily very nice. So I need to figure out a way of doing that, but otherwise I think I've got a nice like message bus system where I could just kind of replicate the files everywhere, and then spin them up and just apply basically transforms to them rather than what I currently have. But I am struggling with, what am I struggling with? Struggling to figure out how I can work, how small my microservices should be, because I think it makes quite a lot of sense to combine the compiler service, which I currently have, and the testing service into an evaluation service, almost definitely. But how do I deal with the reuse of a service, or do I have these services literally spun up for one user and one task? Or do I have a service that can be reused by multiple people? It makes sense to have that, but then how does it know? Say two things want to use MS Build can only have one, and it's going to be complicated. I don't have enough battery power to explain it, and I haven't even figured it out yet. So, let's say two things. Let's say I have, basically this works fine as long as I've got one user. Because essentially, if I just limit it to 10 microservices, I can spin up 10 microservices. Oh wait, that doesn't even work either. Okay, so let's say I have a separate microservice for evaluation. That does the compiling, it runs all the tests. Some compilers only allow, i.e. fucking MS Build, only allows you to run one build per time, at a time on that machine. In that like container or whatever. So, let's say I use a message queue, which I'm probably going to use, to kind of tell the microservices what to test, basically. If I queue up 10 messages and then go, hey, there you go, there's 10, and then queue up the next one, does that one wait for one of them to become free, or does it get picked up by the first one again? And does the first one then have to go, oh, you want to use that compiler's currently busy, put it down, push it back? It seems a bit crazy having a separate build, a separate evaluator service for each different supported compiler and test configuration. Because maybe you run your tests with MS Build, maybe you're mental, and then even then your tests can't run in parallel. So I feel like I need to figure out a way where I can have this kind of like, these services, but they're still able to control themselves without, so basically they take the message and they go, I can't do that, put it back on the queue. I don't know, or do I have a separate queue per, maybe I have a separate queue for MS Build, but like there's MS Build messages, there's .NET messages. Maybe that's a better way. Maybe that makes sense. I could do that with topic in Azure Service Bus. Maybe I've just solved it. Today we had lots of planning, and in the afternoon, like, it seems to be strange because the weather's alright in the morning, and in the midday, it's alright, it's tolerable. In the afternoon, like, it feels like the aircon just turns off, and I was literally felt like I was going to pass out. And I had to, like, go and fucking run cold water on myself, because I literally felt ill. It got so hot so fast, and I don't understand why. And it was the kind of heat where it literally was affecting my brain. And I was just making really bad decisions. I spent half an hour doing work on something that Dibs was doing, when I should have been doing something else, even though I said I was doing that thing. I then managed to break MongoDB, which I don't know how I've done it. Basically, I've been running on an old version of MongoDB, and it hasn't mattered because we haven't stored decimals in our databases yet. And now it matters because we're going to start storing numbers in it. As the Bay has lots of work to do, I'm on call. I'm going to do some designing. I think some designing and a little bit of programming. I'm sitting in here because of the fire. So it looks like Azure Service Bus will give me everything I want. I can interact with it directly using .NET Core, but I really want to be using something like NService Bus or Mass Transit, neither of which support .NET Core fully yet. Some of them do a little bit, but not fully. But Service Fabric doesn't even support .NET Core yet. So I think potentially the pipe dream of going full .NET Core might be a little bit out. But it's not necessarily a bad thing. This is a bit of a pain in the arse, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do. I can have pockets and stuff. I might. It's contemplating because 2.0 basically is when things start to just fucking pop into action on .NET Core, and it's Q3. Hey Google, when's Q3? I don't even know when Q3 is. July. Oh, that's not bad. Obviously assuming that it comes out at the beginning of that. But yeah, so there's some strange... Basically, I've just spent literally all of today, apart from like a little bit of helping Laura, architecting this stuff, trying to figure out how these messages would work. I think I can use a bog standard message. The problem I have is, I have to subscribe to the messages, and without using something like mass transit or in-service bus, I can't filter on content type. I can, but not very easily. And you can only consume the message once. As soon as it's consumed, you can't read it again. So I basically needed a way of figuring out what's on the message without actually looking at what's on the message. Mass transit and certain things to do that. I can look at the content type. I can look at the content type. Maybe we can do that without Service Fabric, because I'm going to need Service Fabric eventually. But I can get things up and running probably with Service. I could probably get this running still on .NET Core without bumping up to preview of 2.0 for now. See if I can get it running on, and then if I need to add it on, then I just add it on. You can always move up the chain, so to speak. I have quite an interesting dilemma, because basically what I want is topics, but topics aren't designed to do what I want it to do, where I essentially have, because I could have one big instance of an evolver that is able to do everything, or I could have different types of evolvers, which I think is overkill based on what it's doing, which I think is just a bit mad. I don't think you'd do that. So what I really want is essentially a way to fire 4 different messages through of different types, and then inside each microservice there's like 4 different routes. I think I've done this. So if I get a message from MS Build, I go, right, okay, on this thread, run the MS Build thing, and I'll sit and wait for another message. I've got another message, can't manage that yet, wait, don't want it. It'll just sit and wait, and so it'll only do one MS Build at a time. However, in parallel, I can run 5 other .NET builds. That's fine, I can do that, no problem. Obviously got to be careful. At the moment, I only do .NET builds. So I am trying to think of myself. Obviously I've got to be careful these threads slowing down too much, but it should be fine. So yeah, okay, I think I've worked it to that. I think I know how I'm going to do it. I want to be able to lay a mass transit on top. There's a lot of action at the moment trying to get it to support .NET Core, so I've subscribed to some issue tracks and stuff on GitHub, and we'll see how it goes. But I think I have an architecture for that part. I think I've solved that problem. So basically I have one thing, I have multiple instances of them, I can spin up instances whenever I want, and they just sit and they just take messages from the queue. And then that message will tell it what to do with its own saved thing, and it will basically be a self-contained version of my entire project. So it will be able to do the mutation, the running, the test, all on its own. Kind of reimagining how the platform will work. It was either that, or the way I currently have it is I have the platform and then I have separate compilers, test runners and mutation runners, which is mad, because then I'd have to copy all the files over the place. I'd compile it in the compiler service, I'd have to copy that over to a different machine to do the testing. It's like a cross between a microservice architecture. What I currently have is a service-orientated architecture, which isn't good enough for what I want it to do. I essentially want microservices which I can spin hundreds of. Anyway, that's enough of that garbage. It's like 500 billion degrees in here. I've literally just put a t-shirt on to end this vlog. Next thing that I need to solve, ladies and gentlemen, is how I contain all of my microservices. I think the best option for me is to use Docker in some way. The question is, does Service Fabric... So I'm using Service Fabric to manage all of the machines. That's like machine level management. Do I need to basically put... Can I have my application running with Docker environment, Docker containers underneath it that it controls, or do I have to put the entire thing in a Docker container so that I can manage it? Because I basically need to be able to dynamically deploy as many of them as I possibly can on the different nodes. So, do I have one instance of my application per node? Do I have the node living inside a container? You know what I mean? Do I have my application living inside a Docker container, which I can have 5 of on the node? I don't know. To figure out, if I have build, let's say MS Build, which you can only use one at a time on one machine, if I have that running inside a separate Docker container, I want to put everything in separate containers anyway, because it can, if I have two companies' codes running on my machine at once, I don't want them being able to see each other. So putting each individual instance of evaluation inside a container is obvious. The question is, does my entire application have to live in a container? I would assume not. I need to figure out whether or not a separate containers allows me to do 2 builds at once on one machine, even just because they're in separate containers. Because one Docker environment will have all of the code that or will spin up all of the code that the user has and then build it. But does that amount of virtualization allow me to do more parallel stuff? I don't know. Is it more likely that I have a container for MS Build and then kind of just change the file drive that it can see dynamically myself, so I keep the container running? All questions that I'm figuring out. It feels like I'm not making progress on code because I'm not actually writing any, but I'm doing lots of like architecture. I'm actually taking notes. It's like being back at uni again. I ordered a fan for my desk because it's too hot and the air conditioner isn't good enough, and it's not going to be there today, and the heat wave's going to be over before it even arrives. I ordered some batteries which arrived yesterday for my Surface Pen, and this fan, and it's, god damn, I hope, fingers crossed it's going to be there. Because bizarrely I didn't get an email like telling me that my batteries were there, but they were on my account. So, who knows? I fucking called it, boys. Oh, bizarre though, because I typed in the code to pick up my package, and it said, you have 2 deliveries to collect, only one's here. Click to confirm you want to pick up 1 and not 2. I pick 1, opens the door, get it out, hit it, and then open the door, close the door, start to walk away, and then it goes, bloop, you've got 1 more delivery to collect, press this button. And I press the button, and then the other one popped out. I wonder whether I'll leave it at work or also take it home. It'd be good to have a fan at home as well. USB as well, I could get a USB battery pack and just walk around with it. That'd be cool, wouldn't it? I have some bad news, which I guess I should say on the vlog, for just in case it comes up, which everyone is going to miss this anyway, but you know, I tweet at one person who brings this up every now and again. Poor old Mr. Sid has been put down this morning. He's been having a lot of problem with like arthritis and stuff recently, which basically means that he's been really struggling like walking and doing things like that. But last night he took a funny turn, and apparently he had quite bad internal bleeding. So they put him down this morning. Dad rang me this morning, and I wasn't going to tell you, and then I thought, well actually, people on here will probably ask. So he was about 14 or 15 years old, bless him, so he's had a good innings. Just a bit like I'm not really affected by it without being mean, because obviously I haven't lived with him for like 6 years, even though it's technically my dog. But yeah, so it just kind of feels a bit like it won't. I don't think it'll hit me until I go back, and then he's not there. You know what I mean? Jesus, it's hot, guys. In terms of Docker, I have just managed to copy a solution, copy it across my own project. My own project, I've managed to copy it over into a Linux kernel, into its own little container, its own protected, safe little area. I've then managed to go in, I've done a restore, I've built the solution, run all the tests, and I can run, I've did obviously a couple of like demo stuff, I can run obviously like the web app and all that kind of stuff. So, I can do all of this. It's possible to run, I think that's how it's going to end up going as well. I'm going to end up running these instances inside this container. Because it's a safe way of doing it. At the moment I might just do it really basic, where I do most of the work outside of the container in a world that I understand, slash have more control over, and then spin up the container to run all of the shizness, basically. I need to figure out how to get data out of the container. I need to be able to see basically what's being displayed to screen. I may need some scripts in order to basically do the operations and stuff. But I mean, as a proof of concept, it works. The minor issue is the fact that Atlas can't do it. Atlas, I've got the wrong version of Windows on Atlas, so I'm not able to do Hyper-V, because I've only got Windows 10 Home, but on the Surface I've got Windows 10 Pro, so that's alright. So it limits where I'll be able to run it, but we'll see. I think this is a good plan though, ladies and gentlemen. I don't really use Atlas anyway. The issue is obviously that Atlas is a little bit chunkier than I am, if you know what I mean. She is a lot more powerful, let's say, than... Well, no, my laptop is faster, but Atlas is more powerful, if that makes any sense. Right, let's try and do some kind of performance test, shall we? Let's not do a performance test because it means nothing. I know I can run it in parallel. But yeah, it doesn't seem to be too bad spinning up the containers either, to be honest with you. Let's try and script it all from the off, instead of like me typing it manually. I think that's probably going to be the way we do it. I've got to look at the APIs to see how it works, but it looks like a go. So I have the proof of concept. All I need to do now is figure out how I can interact with that container and potentially get information out of it. Because, for example, there's no point running the tests if the build fails and shit like that. So I need to know all of that information. But I've been told that if Laura gets out of the shower and I'm not in there ready to watch something on TV, she's going to be pissed. So I went to bed about an hour ago. I put Graham back in a cage, left the room, came back in, and I'd left the door open. Little miss here, who seems to be a bit startled. Okay, Graham. Was just casually sitting there. Who's a good girl, Graham? Time to put you back and close the door, though. Oh, fuck me, that could have gone so wrong. I wonder where she's gone. I wonder what she's been doing for the past hour. Have you been nibbling? Have you weed somewhere? Have you pooed anywhere? You've probably pooed somewhere. Kind of like she's been spooked by something. You okay, Graham? Are you alright? Either way, ladies and gentlemen, let's not do that again. I have been whipping together a proof of concept to try and get this thing running via the API using docker.net NuGet package. I'm trying to integrate with that to see if I can get it up and running. It doesn't look like it's designed to do what I want to do, particularly. It's designed to kind of run something inside a container, and I'm not necessarily the one running that, you know what I mean? There are ways to like attach to standard output and all that kind of stuff, so that's going to be important to do. I think I've more or less figured out what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen. So it's possible. I'm not going to put the entire project in a container, although at a service fabric layer maybe it will be. Maybe that's just the easier way to go about it. I still need to investigate how to programmatically generate more service fabric instances, which is where Docker may come in handy. It may be easier to spin up an instance using Docker, basically spin up another Azure node, add it onto the server, or I might be able to do that. I think I'm going to have to do that. I'm like 95% confident that what I'll have to do is put my service fabric instances inside a Docker container, host that onto Azure, host a complete Docker service fabric network, and then I'll have to integrate with Docker in order to spin up new containers, or to add them onto the shizness programmatically, rather than, I don't think it's possible to define a different sized service fabric instance. I think you just kind of say, you're on the cloud, take advantage of everything you can get. You can't like, and then you predefine that as like 5 or 10 computers. I don't think, but I'm going to have to investigate that. That's what I'm going to have a look into tomorrow. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to end the video there before we ramble on for too long. We've had a whale of a time. We've had haven't done much programming, but I've got a good amount of making sure things are going to work before I jump into them, which is always a good shout. Right, I'm going to head off to bed. Thank you very much for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to try and do something fun this weekend. Thankfully, the wind is coming in a little bit more now. It's supposed to cooler tomorrow, 10 degrees cooler, which is going to be nice, but it's going to be humid and thunderstormy. So, right, thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Thank God Graham's okay. Especially considering Sid today as well, blimey. I'll catch you later.